They thought blood meant loyalty. But when my parents' inheritance became a number on a bank screen, my brother turned into a stranger with my last name. What he didn't know was that I'd learned how to make silence my weapon. And silence can ruin lives. I always believed betrayal sounded like shouting. Turns out it's quiet. It hides in gentle smiles and soft-voiced phone calls. It lives in the spaces between "I love you" and "I need your help." My name's Emily Carter, and this story starts in the house where I thought family meant forever. My parents built everything from nothing. My father, Tom Carter, ran a modest logistics business in Austin, Texas, while my mother, Helen, managed the books. They weren't wealthy by nature, but by persistence. Every dollar earned was a story, one of long nights, canceled vacations, and bills marked paid with pride. Growing up, my brother Ryan was the center of that pride. 3 years older, golden smile, magnetic charm. He was the dreamer. I was the practical one, the one who double-checked his math homework, the one who noticed when the lights were left on, the one who quietly kept things from falling apart. When Ryan got accepted into a private university in California, my parents sold a piece of land to help pay. They said, "He's going to make something big of himself." When I got accepted into a public college in state, they said, "You're smart enough to make it on your own." I told myself I didn't mind. But part of me noticed the way fairness never quite lived here. 10 years later, life had looped back around. Dad had retired. Mom was spending more time gardening than accounting. And Ryan, well, Ryan was back. Back in town, back in the family business, back to help Dad modernize things. Except modernize looked a lot like control. He'd convinced Dad to give him signing authority on the company's finances. Said it would ease the burden. Within months, the office felt different. Old employees left, new ones arrived, people who called him Sir and me Tom's daughter. I still worked part-time for the company's marketing side, designing campaigns and social media updates. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept me close to Dad. And maybe that's why I noticed the first red flag. One Friday afternoon, Dad asked me to email him a copy of a contract Ryan supposedly signed for a new warehouse partnership. When I checked the shared drive, there was no record of it. No document, no trace, nothing. I asked Ryan about it. He smiled, too easily. Must have saved it on my laptop. "Don't worry, Em. Dad's just old school." That was his line for everything. Don't worry, Em. But I did. The following week, my father collapsed at work. It wasn't a heart attack, the doctor said, just exhaustion. But it shook him enough to start talking about his will. He called us both to the house one evening. The dining table was covered in papers, the smell of Mom's lasagna filling the air like a false comfort. "Kids," Dad said, voice steady, "I've worked my whole life to make sure you both have something. I want it fair." Ryan smiled. I stayed quiet. He continued, "The business will go to you both 50-50. The house, savings, everything else will be divided equally. But you'll have to agree, together, on any major decisions." Mom looked relieved. "That's all we ever wanted, Tom. Fairness." Ryan reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Of course," he said, "we'll handle it together." And for a moment I almost believed him. 3 months later, Dad passed away unexpectedly. A quiet morning. Coffee still warm. His truck keys on the counter. The house filled with relatives, condolences, casseroles, and awkward hugs that smelled like lilies. Ryan handled the calls. The funeral. The business. I handled the grief. Alone. When we met with Dad's lawyer, I braced myself to hear the same arrangement he'd promised. But instead, the lawyer's words felt like ice water. The will names Ryan Carter as the sole executor and primary beneficiary of all business assets, he said. My throat went dry. "That's impossible. My father told us." He shook his head gently. The will was revised 6 weeks before his passing. I turned to Ryan. He looked shocked, too shocked. "Emily," he whispered, "I didn't know. I swear I didn't. But I saw it, the faint twitch of his jaw, the way his eyes didn't quite meet mine. And in that moment I understood. The betrayal had already happened. The next few weeks blurred into logistics and legal walls. Ryan moved into Dad's office, changed the letterhead, and started calling himself CEO. He said I could stay on if I wanted, a generous offer, as if he hadn't just stolen half my legacy. Mom seemed torn. Your brother's just trying to keep the business afloat, Em. Don't make this harder than it already is. Harder? I was grieving a father and losing a future at the same time. That night, I drove to the office after hours. The building was dark, except for the faint glow under Ryan's door. Through the glass, I saw him on a video call, laughing with someone, his voice smug. Yeah, he said she bought it. Thought Dad promised her half. By the time she figures it out, I'll have the whole company restructured. I stood frozen in the hallway, the sound of my heartbeat louder than his words. That's when the truth hit me. He didn't just betray me. He betrayed Dad's memory. And I wasn't going to let that stand. The next morning, I called Dad's old accountant, Mr. Allen, a man who'd known our family for 20 years. I told him I needed to review the corporate filings. He hesitated. Emily, your brother already requested them. Said you'd signed off. My chest tightened. I never signed anything. Then you need to come in, he said. When I arrived, he handed me a folder of documents. Each one bore my name. My digital... I know. You're aware what happens when this goes public. I looked him straight in the eye. Then it'll be the truth that goes public. He agreed cautiously. I'll verify everything first. Quietly. And just like that, the quiet storm began. Meanwhile, Ryan was preparing for what he called the Carter expansion plan. He planned to open 3 new distribution hubs under the company's name. The banks loved him. Investors lined up, and Mom, well, she believed every word. I visited her often just to make sure she was okay. But each visit hurt more than the last. She'd talk about Ryan's dedication, his vision, how proud Dad would have been. Every time, I'd smile and sip my tea, tasting bitterness instead of sugar. Because I'd seen the documents, the plan wasn't an expansion. It was a sell-off. Ryan intended to liquidate Dad's company to a conglomerate and pocket the buyout. He would walk away rich. And Mom would lose the last piece of Dad. I knew then my revenge wasn't just personal anymore. It was about preservation of everything Dad built and believed in. The unraveling started on a rainy Thursday. I received an encrypted file from Mark, financial analysis, traced accounts, and cross-referenced wire transfers. It was airtight. Then came the message. He's moving the final funds this weekend. Once it's done, the company's gone. That night, I sat in Dad's old truck outside the office parking lot. The wipers thumped like a heartbeat. My phone screen glowed with the folder of proof. It wasn't enough to destroy him legally. I needed everyone to see who he really was. And that meant timing it perfectly. Friday morning, Ryan called an all-staff announcement at headquarters. The entire team gathered in the conference hall. Even Mom showed up, sitting in the front row, eyes full of hope. He took the stage in a tailored suit, confident as ever. Today, he began, marks a new era for Carter Logistics. He unveiled a sleek presentation, photos, revenue charts, bold slogans. He spoke about modernization, partnerships, and the future. Every line was rehearsed, polished, and perfect. Until I walked in. The doors creaked open mid-sentence. Heads turned. I hadn't planned it dramatically, but silence always knows when to follow the truth. Sorry I'm late, I said softly, walking to the front. I brought some updates too. Ryan's smile faltered. Maybe later. I connected my laptop to the projector. The screen flickered, then filled with something far less corporate. Transaction logs, email screenshots, document comparisons. Gasps rippled through the room. Mom stood slowly. What is this? I turned to her. Proof of how he's been siphoning Dad's company into his own accounts. Ryan's voice rose, strained. This is ridiculous. Those are confidential documents. You can't just show people the truth? I cut in. My voice didn't shake. I made sure of that. I clicked through slides, each one tighter, clearer. Dates. Amounts. My forged signature. Then, the final slide. An audio clip. Ryan's voice, recorded from the hallway weeks ago. She bought it, though Dad promised her half. By the time she figures it out, I'll have the whole company restructured. The room went deathly still. Ryan's face was drained of color. Mom covered her mouth. Employees exchanged horrified glances. For the first time, Ryan had no script. He lunged forward to disconnect the laptop, but security stopped him. Someone had already called the board. The empire he built on lies was collapsing in real time. That night, my phone exploded with messages, reporters, employees, even relatives who'd once ignored me. By morning, the story was trending locally. Austin CEO accused of inheriting company through forged documents. Ryan went silent. The board suspended him pending investigation. And Mom stopped answering my calls. I didn't blame her. Love makes denial easier than truth. Still, I wasn't celebrating. Revenge doesn't feel like victory. It feels like the aftermath. 2 weeks later, Caroline called. They've confirmed the forgery, Emily. It's official. Your father's original will was tampered with. You'll be reinstated as co-owner once probate finishes. I thanked her, but my voice felt hollow. Because even when you win, the losses remain. Dad was still gone. Mom's silence hurt more than any lawsuit could. But I knew something else now. Ryan wasn't done. People like him don't go quietly. And that's when I found the note. It was taped to my apartment door, plain white paper, one sentence written in Ryan's sharp handwriting. You think this is over, Em? Watch what happens when the truth hits you. I stood in the hallway, the paper trembling slightly in my hand. The city outside buzzed, cars, sirens, life moving forward. But I felt it again, that quiet before the next storm. Revenge doesn't begin with anger. It begins with clarity. Power of attorney transfers. Asset reallocations. Even a form granting Ryan full operational control, signed by Emily Carter. My voice trembled. These are forged. Alan frowned. Then your brother's in deep trouble. I walked out of that office with a calm I didn't feel. The kind of calm that builds right before a storm. I spent the next few days quietly collecting everything. Emails. Timestamps. Server access logs. I even pulled camera footage from the office security system. Footage that showed Ryan in my chair, using my computer the night before those documents were uploaded. Still, evidence wasn't enough. I wanted justice, but justice only works when you pick the right moment to reveal it. One evening, I visited Mom. She was sitting on the porch, trimming her rose bushes, the sunset, painting everything gold. Mom, I said softly, did Dad tell you he changed the will? She froze, scissors midair. He mentioned updating it. Ryan said it was for tax purposes. Did he ever show you? No, her voice faltered. Emily, please don't start this again. Your brother's under so much pressure. Pressure doesn't make people forge signatures, Mom. Her eyes flashed. You're accusing him without proof. I have proof. She looked away. Then do what you think you need to do. But remember, he's still your brother. I looked at her then, really looked, at the worry lines, the tired eyes that chose peace over truth. And I realized she wasn't defending him. She was protecting her illusion of family. Some truths are too sharp for love to survive. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by evidence, screenshots, documents, voice recordings. Revenge wasn't what I wanted. I wanted acknowledgement. I wanted my father's name cleared of the stain Ryan had left. But sometimes, to reclaim your place, you have to destroy the illusion of family first. So I started planning. Not loud, not emotional. Quiet. Methodical. The way betrayal had once come for me. There's a strange calm that comes before destruction. The kind that makes people mistake silence for surrender. I let Ryan think he'd won. That was the first step. He was everywhere now. Company newsletters, LinkedIn posts, even a local business magazine feature titled, "The Visionary Son Reviving His Father's Legacy." I kept the article on my desk, not out of pride, but to remind myself who I was really dealing with. Each morning, I'd walk into the office like a ghost, smiling, polite, invisible. He called me sis in meetings, like we were still kids sharing cereal boxes. But behind that performative grin, I saw calculation. He'd underestimated me for years. That was about to become his biggest mistake. I started by contacting Caroline Ross, Dad's former attorney, the same woman who'd helped draft the first version of his will. She agreed to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. She looked older than I remembered, silver hair tied neatly, calm eyes that scanned my folder before I even opened my mouth. "I think my brother forged my signature," I said. She didn't flinch. "Show me." I slid the documents across. Her eyebrows lifted slightly as she traced the fake digital signature. "Sloppy," she murmured. "Not his first time, I suspect." She explained the legal landscape, what counted as forgery, what would hold up in court, and how to build a timeline of intent. Then she said something that stuck with me. "Emily, people like your brother don't fear laws. They fear exposure." That night, those words echoed in my head. Exposure. That was the weapon. To the outside world, Ryan was thriving. He drove a new Tesla, moved into a condo downtown, and started hosting charity events under the Carter name. I watched from the edges, documenting every move. At one gala, I noticed a woman by his side, a brunette in her 30s with a marketing badge clipped to her dress. Her name was Samantha Lewis, head of PR for a major real estate group. They looked close. Too close. I filed that detail away. Because every perfect life needs a weak link. A month later, I quietly requested access to the company's shared financial drive under a project pretext. Ryan's assistant, too busy managing invoices, clicked approve without reading. Within minutes, I had everything: emails, PDFs, investment ledgers. The numbers didn't lie. Ryan had moved hundreds of thousands from the business account into a consulting shell company registered under RL Enterprises. The listed address? His condo. The real punch came when I checked the transfer descriptions. Each transaction had a memo, authorized by EC. My initials. He was still using my name as a smokescreen. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with precision. I wasn't going to yell, threaten, or beg. I was going to orchestrate. Step 1 was documentation. Step 2 was trust, not his, but someone else's. I reached out to Mark Holloway, an investigative journalist I'd once collaborated with during a charity campaign years ago. He'd exposed corporate embezzlement before. When I explained what I had, he hesitated. "This is your brother, Emily." After Ryan's note, I stopped sleeping. Every sound outside my apartment made my pulse spike: footsteps in the hallway, a phone buzz that wasn't mine. But fear wasn't what he expected. It sharpened me. He wanted chaos. I gave him precision. A week later, the company officially froze all his accounts. His condo, car, and investments, everything tied to Carter Logistics, was under investigation. The board issued a statement calling his actions a tragic misrepresentation of the Carter legacy. I read it twice. Misrepresentation was such a clean word for theft. Mom refused to see me. Her calls to Ryan's lawyer, her attempts to stop the process, all bounced back. For years she'd built her peace around him, and now that peace was cracking like glass. Still, I couldn't hate her. Denial was her armor, guilt mine. Late one night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Meet me. One last time. No cameras, no lawyers. You owe me that much." Ryan. I should have ignored it. Instead, I typed, "Fine. Tomorrow." The old house. Noon. The next day was gray and wet. Texas rain that smeared the skyline and made everything look haunted. When I pulled into the driveway of our childhood home, nostalgia hit like a bruise. The same porch swing. The same chipped mailbox. Except the laughter that once filled this place had long gone silent. Ryan stood under the awning, drenched but defiant. The arrogance was gone. What remained was something smaller. Fear wearing bravado like armor. "Are you happy now?" he said, voice raw. "You ruined me." "No," I said quietly. "You ruined yourself." He scoffed. "You always wanted what I had. The attention, the money, Dad's pride. I wanted honesty." I cut in. "You mistook that for jealousy." He stepped closer. You think they'll still love you when they find out? Find out what? His smirk flickered. You were the one who convinced Dad to retire.
You knew he was sick.
You knew the stress would kill him. The words hit like cold water. That's a lie. But believable, he whispered. And people love a tragic twist. Imagine what the papers will do with that headline. For a moment, I just stared at him. This was what he had left, manipulation. He couldn't win legally, so he'd try to rewrite the narrative. I took a breath. Then tell them. But you might want to check your email first. His expression shifted, confusion, then suspicion. Why? Because I forwarded the entire investigation file, the forged signatures, the voice recordings, your texts, to every news outlet that covered your expansion story. They're going live at noon. He blinked. You wouldn't. I already did. And right on cue, his phone buzzed. Then again. And again. He looked down. His face went pale. The downfall wasn't loud, it was quiet. Just the soft patter of rain and the click of truth finally catching up. 3 days later, it was everywhere. CEO Ryan Carter confesses to forgery amid public backlash. He'd released a statement claiming mental health struggles and financial stress. The usual PR spin. But it didn't matter, his empire was gone. Mom finally called. Her voice was tired, small. I just saw the news. I know. Silence stretched between us. Then she said, I should have listened to you. I swallowed hard. He's still your son. He's your brother too. I wanted to say not anymore, but I didn't. Sometimes silence is kinder than truth. Weeks turned into months. The company stabilized under a temporary board. I stepped back, letting professionals handle what Dad left behind. Instead, I started something smaller, a logistics consulting startup under my own name. No legacy. No ghosts.
Just me.
It felt clean. But closure doesn't come signed and dated. It comes in fragments, a message unanswered, a memory you stop replaying. For me, it came 6 months later, when Mom showed up at my office. She looked older, thinner. Her hands trembled as she handed me an envelope. It's from Ryan, she said. He's in rehab. Said you'd want to read this. Inside was a single page. You were right. I became everything Dad warned me about. I don't expect forgiveness. Just don't let his name end with me.
R.
I folded it back carefully. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was genuine. But it didn't matter anymore. Some apologies aren't for reconciliation. They're just acknowledgments that the war is over. The next morning, I drove to the cemetery. The grass was damp, the air cool. Dad's headstone gleamed under the early sun. I placed the letter beside the flowers. I fixed it, I whispered. Then after a long pause. But I wish I didn't have to. The wind shifted, light, almost warm. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. Later that week, the board finalized everything. Carter Logistics would remain family-owned under my leadership. Mom asked to join the advisory team. We didn't talk about the past. We just built something new on its ashes. And maybe that's what justice really is, not revenge, but rebuilding where the fire once was. Months later, I reopened the porch swing at the old house. Fresh paint. Clean air. It no longer carried memories of shouting, only the rhythm of a life rebuilt. I looked at the sunset and thought of Dad. He used to say, integrity isn't what you show people, Emily. It's what you keep when they're gone. He was right, and I finally understood. Betrayal had broken our family, but truth had quietly rebuilt it. If this story moved you, if you've ever been betrayed by someone who shared your blood, tell me your story in the comments. Let's build a community that turns pain into strength. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Betrayal Nation. Help us reach 5,000 subscribers, one story of justice at a time.